Here are the best pro tips to help instantly start solo carrying as support. Supports have always had a rough time when it comes to solo carrying. Sometimes it feels like all you can do is stop your teammates from inting, not help them succeed. But I've got some great tips for every character in the game right now, even our two new, peculiar, mysterious heroes, Lifeweaver and Larry. Make sure to check out a GameLeap subscription using the link in the description below. There's tons of different plans to get access to all sorts of information, including massive support for supports. Every role has a default way to play the game. Tanks want to take space, DPS want to deal damage, and supports want to support. But support means a lot more than just taking space and dealing damage. You can do it in so many different ways, so check out the subscription to find out how. Let's get started already with Ana. Aggressive nades is everything as Ana. If you're just playing to heal bot, you're missing out on a massive amount of utility that seriously makes Ana one of the best supports of all time. It's not just a reduction of healing, it completely locks it out. The nade is great for healing up burst damage, but if you nade the enemy team before they can go in, they won't be able to engage you and force you to have to burst heal your tank. Keep them at bay so they don't even get a single chance to go on you. The only weakness you have with this plan is you won't have for self-defense, but oftentimes, especially in the current meta with less divers and more spammers, you can snipe it from long range every early fight, starting your team off at an advantage every time, with no drawbacks. For every character in the game, you can obviously do more if you die less, but one tip to die less as Ana is to avoid scoping in too much. Every character that can scope in is way easier to headshot when they are scoped in, Ashe being one of the biggest examples. She's a crazy headshot victim herself, and is more susceptible to not only other snipers, but characters like Zenyatta and Torb who spam projectiles on corners, they're especially dangerous. Let's hop on to Baptiste. The best way to get good at Bap is to master the balance of his kit, both with his weapon and his abilities. A lot of characters have balance to their kits, but Bap really takes it to the maximum. In order to get good damage and healing on both your frontline and the enemies, drill in the classic combo of shoot, shoot, heal, and then shoot, shoot, heal again. Rinse and repeat. When you need to damage more, say at the beginning of the fight when your tank is using their defensive abilities to push forward, you can do more damage. And likewise in the middle of the fight, or when the enemy pushes with ultimates, you can focus more on healing. Shooting twice between every heal actually favors shooting your primary fire more than your secondary fire. You'll be doing more damage than if you did shoot heal, for example. But regular healing should be all you need until the fight really breaks out. The next thing you need to balance is your jump. Bap's exo boots are unbelievably strong, but make sure to not jump super high all the time. That's when you get sniped out of the air and look really silly. It's best used when you charge it up before the fight. Look to charge it so you can jump over May walls when they block your heals or away from Bastion's ult when he starts targeting you. But otherwise, try not to jump into the sky too much, because you can get some serious damage taken, which will force abilities you desperately want to hold on to. Now onto Brigitte. Brig is still strong, but she doesn't have all the buffs that made her so overpowered so long ago. The reason she's still strong is really her unblockable healing. Keep activating your Inspire with your rip shots, and keep your packs for your DPS who are really gonna need it. The rest of her kit is obviously strong, booping and mobility, and her shield are nothing to sneeze at. So when you use your bash, always bash away from the fight, not into it. We're still playing for the Inspire and the packs. It's really easy to want to go aggressive and swing for Inspire and deal some damage, but try to pull back on pushing and play more to defend your backline. Your team will win anyway without your very minimal damage, so make sure that you keep healing up massive amounts of passive healing. The amount of easy value you can get with Brig is ginormous, so cash in on the free AFK wins as long as you keep yourself alive. Now onto the new kid on the block, Larry. And Larry is all about damaging, but you need to take it up to 11, be a total DPS bot rather than a heal bot. Now, you might want to get some balance in your kit. Of course, all supports have to do some healing, right? That's where your turret comes in. Blizzard nerfed the pylon because it was doing so much of her healing, and that's because it really is so good. When you're between fights, you need to be laser focused on shooting main, looking for headshots, letting your turret heal all the poke and prod damage coming in. Save your laser heal to burst tanks in the mid-fight, and let your turret and the other support handle the rest. You have to hit the firing range, since Larry's able to bring so much passive healing and basically an entire third DPS damage amount. You'll be able to get 10k damage per 10 pretty easily if you really just focus on frontline damage. A lot of flex supports have a big focus on damage dealing. It's been a pretty common theme over the years. But Larry is unprecedented, since she really doesn't have to turn around at all to heal. You can focus on fully hitting heads and spamming main to get value instead of just healing your team. Support your team as Larry by defeating all their enemies before they even get a chance to deal them damage. Now onto Kiriko, the second super damage dealing healer, and she's received a lot of changes lately. The most important thing to know is that despite Kiriko being known for being a third DPS, playing on an off angle or flank before the fight, she can actually heal frontline really well, especially weaving in kunais kind of like Bap to keep the pressure up. Kiriko's really good at spamming main for headshot angles, so you can do both dealing and healing while staying with your team in main. Off angles and flanks are obviously still really effective, so when you do go aggressive, try not to use your Suzu in the later game. Play for a strong start where you look for headshots but teleport away earlier, so you'll still have your Suzu for when things start to unfold in the front line. To summarize, play more to heal hard, then damage hard, rather than always starting off the fight in the enemy backline. Flanking is great, but most tank players will take way too much damage at the start of the fight, and leave you playing catch up and healing them up, leading to you not being able to DPS as much since you're desperately trying to save your front line. It's not something we want to deal with, but something you're going to have to deal with. Now for Life Weaver. The big man Weaver himself is actually a good hero now. Just remember that he's a mercy type character. Focus mostly on your healing rather than weaving in damage. Instead of healing single target characters with damage boost utility, he spam heals everyone all the time, kind of like a Brig with unlimited packs, with mobility utility instead of the damage boost utility. First off, you want to look to spam heals all the time. And you shouldn't be charging them up to full either. Your little flower petals are best when they're consistent. Charging up to full sometimes means you're losing out on healing per second. You want to just get the heal out as fast as you can, and then react with burst heal when everyone's full HP. His damage really isn't good enough to fight most people off. The spread and damage have gotten better, but its medium DPS gets really hindered by the slow projectile and spread. So stick with your auto-magnetizing flower heals, which are seriously underrated. Life Weaver gets crazy healing numbers now, and with crazy healing numbers, you get crazy ultimate charge rate. The tree is now a menace of an ultimate. Overhealth at the start of Overwatch 2 was insane, and it still is. Even Rally makes everyone except the Brig almost unkillable, despite not having armor anymore. So focus on healing brutally. Use your ultimate often, and finally, set up your pedal before the fight start, so you can quickly dash onto them instead of having to throw it down reactively when abilities start flying all over the place. If you commit to the Heal God playstyle and survive past the start of the fight, you will be blessing your teammates with near immortality. He's actually quite good right now, so don't sleep on him. On top of that, saving an inting tank with your grip is impossible on any other support, so use it wisely. Now onto Lucio. Going fast is always the way, but you need to balance your aura with healing too, so you can get your beat more than 2 times in the whole game. When you amp, always start with speed, and then switch it over to healing towards the end of it to give a little burst of healing to your team after they've used your speed to close distance. Get aggressive with your primary fire too. Your amp is the go button for your team, so follow up with big well-placed spam shots from your sonic amplifier. Otherwise, try to play really aggressive in the early fights, especially when the enemy is coming out of small doorways like on Oasis Gardens. Control those choke points with your boop and wall ride, and you'll instantly lock the enemy to a standoff. Fall back or get booped, split up, and sped on. And in ranked, most players don't back off, so look forward to getting massive boops off your aggression. Most players want to really go crazy as Lucio, flank and get kills on their own, and be that third DPS that so many supports aspire to be. So when you do go for a flank, make sure that at the end of it, you use your aura on your team to help them follow up on your aggression. Never forget that the value of solo individual plays is usually that it takes a lot of attention from the enemy team, which means that your front line and the rest of your team can really take advantage. If you pressure the backline hard enough, they have to turn around, and that means the front line gets weak, so the rest of your team can run them over easily. Now Mercy. Mercy's damage boost nerf has made a lot of people want to just heal bot with her, but don't be fooled, her damage boost is still unbelievably strong. The 5% is quite big, but a lot of damage breakpoints for one-shots on the characters she usually pockets haven't been changed. It's the same as before. Damage boost early, healing when necessary, but the damage boost is one of the 2 things that make Mercy truly uniquely strong, the second being her Resurrect. Her Guardian Angel mobility ties her kit together, so remember to not always autopilot and Guardian Angel off cooldown. You'll sometimes want to be able to reactively fly back instead of spamming it for unpredictable movement. And if you have a friend to do it with as well, make sure to abuse Lamp Res or Suzu Res. With good coordination, you can pull off the most outrageous resurrections that would envy even the Vatican. Moira. Utility is not Moira's strong suit, but her power to raw healing push forward is pretty exceptional. Including her Fade is actually a strong form of ability, rather than just a survival button. Use her heal orbs more. Damage orbs are fun and all, but heal orbs get you more ult charge and help to balance your healing resource more, and force your team forward with brute healing. Moira will always struggle in the late fight, because her healing slowly runs out, but if you put a massive ton of oomph in the first 10 seconds of the fight, you're going to see massive results in your ability to overrun the enemy team and simply put, outpace them in both healing and damage. Your damage orb is best saved for duels or following up on late fight kills, since your healing orb is fantastically strong everywhere else, before and during the fight. Let's finish with Z for Zenyatta. Zenyatta is a simple, great character, but his Discord changes to his range makes it hard to select the backline target to focus, since you have to push up and put yourself in more danger to get in the range. Focus massively on spamming down mid on tanks when you can Discord them, and when they're hiding or too far, charge up your right clicks to look for key unsuspecting picks. It's a really easy way to balance your Discord targets, your primary fire, and your secondary fire. primary fire and frontline when they're in range, and secondary when they're using cover or hiding from your team. Remember that your melee boops and does extra damage, so if you combine it with cover, it's almost impossible for most tanks to chase you successfully. Live more to kill more is the motto for all the bloodthirsty supports out there. That covers it for this round of pro tips for tank, DPS, and support, but keep an eye on this channel for fresh new tips for the upcoming mid-season patch, which is sure to shake things up.